Does the success of the 2026 Miami Dolphins season hinge on the development and the play of certain young players on this team? We're going to discuss that in depth. Plus, I also want to discuss there's been some movement on the offensive line as of late. And we got some interesting little nuggets as to why certain moves were made, courtesy of Barry Jackson. So we're going to discuss that as well. And we got to ask the question because The Athletic kind of alluded to it. Was the Dolphins' best move this offseason one of their big time releases? We're going to talk about it all. Let's not waste a moment. Let's get into this. What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. Appreciate each and every one of you coming through on this episode. As you do me the favor, smash that like button, subscribe if you are new. We are now 11 away from 20K, and I want to do a big 20K giveaway. I want to have at least 5 winners. I'm early in the stages, but I'm thinking some, 3-month Patreon gift memberships, some Fanatics gift cards. The wheels are churning, but once we hit that, we are going to set it up, and I'm probably going to have a deadline. We'll probably do the giveaway early July, give everyone a month to, get involved and to also really get entry into the giveaway because I want to do a big one for all of y'all. So I want to give people time to get involved. So make sure you smash that like button. Hey, if you're new here, subscribe. It takes 2 seconds. It's free. And turn on the little notification bell so you are always notified when we go live or when we upload. Speaking of uploads, this weekend we'll be uploading another prospect profile and film study. Kyle Lewis is going to be the topic this weekend. You guys have been showing so much love to the prospect profiles and film studies. We're going to keep it rolling. We can, at this rate, we might do the whole 13 pick draft class. I know at least one UDFA I want to do. And if you've been watching me, you probably have a good idea of who that UDFA video is going to be. So, we're going to keep rolling with those, especially through June, just to keep you guys and your minds, nice and football warm and football ready for training camp at the end of July. And shout out to the homie, 12 months. Shout out to Matthew Goaded, 12-month member. Says, happy Friday, brother. Hope you and the fam are good. Hey, man, I'm going to be honest with you. It's Friday. Your boy's feeling alive. Going to order a pizza from his favorite pizza spot. I haven't had pizza in forever. And listen, my mother, all the females in my family are gone for the night to some play in, downtown Toronto. So, us husbands, us full-time dads, when we get a Friday night to ourselves, oh boy. I'm thinking actually I just started playing Jedi Survivor. Probably going to play a little bit of that. You know what I'm saying? And just actually, to be completely honest with you, I'm going to continue finishing up the Kyle Lewis film breakdown. I actually should be able to wrap that up tonight, but I'm going to be dropping it Sunday for you guys. So, but I'm going to be doing film work and playing some video games and eating some pizza. And that's the life for a full-time father. You know what I'm saying? So love it. And I want to take a moment and I want to shout out the sponsor of this video. And that sponsor, of course, is Prize Picks. Man, what a series. I'm sorry. What a series. San Antonio and the Thunder. Man, Prize Picks, they are keeping you locked into that series even harder because they are America's #1 sports pick app. And no matter what sport you're watching, there's no better way to make the action more exciting than with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made simply. Just pick more or less on your favorite players, projections, and build lineups in a few taps. Whether it's football, playoff basketball, or any other sports you're into, Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in on every play while you're watching. And to get you started, they're hooking you up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup when you use code HMA. Man, let me know who you got in Game 7. What do you got going on in Game 7 between SGA and Wemby back in Oklahoma? What a series, man. And we got the Stanley Cup final starting. It's a good time to be locked in on the action with Prize Picks. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code HMA to get $50 in lineups. After you play your first $5 lineup, code HMA to get $50 in lineup. After you play your first $5 lineup, Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Link is in the description below. Again, shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring the channel. And shout out to all of you. A lot of OKC, man. You know, Kevin Williams is the only one who thinks San Antonio. A lot of people think it's OKC. A lot of people think it's going to be OKC. Oh, man. Listen, either way I win. I think Wemby is the best player in the world, so that stands up. Or my Canadian boy SGA keeps going. Man, you know, I was talking about, and I know this isn't football, but I got to say this for a sec. Well, I mean, I could relate this to Jaylen Waddle, but we'll get to that. Man, Clippers got to be kicking themselves, huh? SGA and all that for Paul George. And what did you get out of that? Well, it's turned OKC into what they are right now. Whew. Man, the Clippers, that whole thing was a fiasco. Kawhi should have if it wasn't for his uncle, his greedy uncle, Kawhi should have never left Toronto. He should have never left San Antonio to begin with, but he should have never left Toronto. He would have won another chip or two here, probably, with Siakam. We probably would have never ended up shipping off Siakam. We would have probably won another chip here. Man, and that Clippers thing just blew up for the Clippers. Kawhi ended up, you know, not being what he was in San Antonio and Toronto in terms of the clutch winner. Paul George, what did you get out of that? And look at what you gave up to OKC and look at what they built themselves into with all that. Oh my God. And listen, I love Chris Johnson, but is Chris Johnson in year one going to be as impactful as Jaylen Waddle is going to be as the undisputed wide receiver 1 in Denver? Listen, I can't sit here and say that that's going to be the case. I can't. You know, everyone knows Jaylen Waddle and Devon Achane were my two favorite players when it was all said and done. Right? When we made it to the end of 2025, if you would have said, Reason, who are your two favorite players on this team? Everyone knows it would have been Jaylen Waddle and Devon Achane. 110%. And, you know, I've talked about this. Jaylen Waddle, this trade, you know, him moving on from us hurts more than Tyreek leaving or Tua leaving. Jaylen Waddle hurts. And I'll tell you why it hurts, because I know how talented he is. And Sean Payton is going to make us look. Sean Payton's going to make us look like fools. I'm prepared for that. I've been prepared for that. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm prepared for that, and I've been prepared for that. So it is what it is. It is what it is. I think, man, as a clear, untested number one, look what he was, you know what was so amazing about what he's doing in 2022 and 2023 is the guy was playing second fiddle all that whole time to Tyreek. Like, people forget that. People just look at him as in a vacuum. Like, look at year one. Look at what he did year one. Look at all the rookie receiving records as a Dolphin, franchise rookie receiving records he broke as a Dolphin. Okay, receptions being one of them. And he had Godsey and Stoodsville who didn't know how to use him 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. And look at what he did. Then you go look at 2022 and 2023. He's second fiddle. He's not the guy. You know, like he's second fiddle. He's just the guy. That's just what it is. I mean, look what he always did to. You know why Dolphin fans always knew Sauce Gardner wasn't that dude? You know why we always knew Sauce Gardner wasn't that dude? Was because of Jaylen Waddle. Because Jaylen Waddle would make him look silly. Sauce Gardner wasn't even in Jaylen Waddle's universe when they matched up against each other on Sundays. And he was consistently showing that. Sauce would get all this praise league-wide about being CB1. And then every time he lined up against our boy Waddle, we were seeing a lot of Penguin celebrations. We were seeing a lot of chunk yardage. I'm just saying. I'm telling you. What? Look at what, and this isn't taking away anything from the player, but it's clearly who the more talented and gifted player between the two of them is. Look what Sean Payton did with slants and Michael Thomas. What do you think he's going to do with Jaylen Waddle? Jaylen Waddle's faster, more explosive. He's going to get to the spot much, much quicker. If he did that with Michael Thomas, what do you think he's going to do with Jaylen Waddle? Man, I tell you, I'm prepared. Listen, hey, if it doesn't end up popping off, is there egg on my face? Sure, but at the end of the day, then I'm not as hurt. If it does pop off like I think it's going to pop off, then yeah, I'm going to be seething a little bit quietly. I'm not going to, be constantly talking about it and hammering it, but just know that I'm stating right now on Friday, May 29th, 2026, that if Waddle's popping off, you know how Reason feels and he ain't happy. I think you're going to see him get back to that 2022 form. That's what I think you're going to see. It's coming. You're going to see him. We all expected him to start building up 2022 and 23. I think he's going to get back on that path. And I think it's because of good coaching is going to lead him there. And I just think it's going to be a better situation. So, I mean, look at where they can win playoff games in Denver. Be prepared too. Be prepared for Jaylen Waddle to win a playoff game this year before the Dolphins do. Get prepared. This could be a year where we see, let's be honest here. If Tua beats out Penix, this could be a year where we see Tua, McDaniel, and Waddle win playoff games before we do. That's like a realistic possibility. Because I don't know if you guys heard what Stefanski was saying about Tua, but he was like talking about like innate God-given ability in terms of his accuracy. McDaniel, that Chargers team is loaded up. Like that and he doesn't have to focus on coaching and being a leader of all of those men's on both sides of the ball. We just covered Waddle. I mean, think about it for a sec. Talk about a kick in the gonads. But listen, I'll tell you this much. If short-term pain leads to long-term gain, count me in. And what do I mean by that? If I got to sit there and watch these three guys who we rooted for when they were wearing our colors, if I got to sit there and watch them win a playoff game or multiple playoff games this year, and that means in 3 or 4 years, we're going to have a sustained contender and playoff performing team. We've got the monkey off our back. We've now won multiple playoff games. If we become a sustained playoff contender and we got to go through some short-term pain by watching these guys be successful, so be it. It is what it is. It is what it is. I look at it in the same light as I was prepared for them to roll with Quinn Ewers this year. If we got to go 2-15 or 3-14, and that really speeds up the reset here and helps us get that franchise quarterback or Jeremiah Smith, if we find the franchise quarterback some other way, then so be it. I was ready to take that on the chin. So no different. We'll see. I just want this all to be for a, funny enough, reason. I want there to be purpose. Or I guess because we're Dolphins, some purpose. I just want there to be meaning, execution, and a positive result in the end of it. Because the execution is where we have really been lacking in what has not led to the positive result for multiple regimes leading up to here. The closest we've come to executing was 2023, and we still found a way to F it all up. And I will say this till I'm blue in the face. As someone who was born in 85, I've been a Penguins fan and a Dolphins fan since I was born. Marino and Lemieux literally came into their respective leagues the year before I was born. And my father, the Dolphins fan, my brother, the Penguins fan, paved those future paths for me that I've been walking ever since. Okay? So I've had my whole life invested as a Dolphins fan. We deserve success as fans. We deserve a lot better than what we've gotten the last, man, even since Marino was here. Let's be real. Underachievement. We've always found a way to mess it up. We got to stop that, man. And it's just this cycle of reset, hope, repeat. And the repeat hasn't been good. So let's just get this right, for the love of God. You know, love of God. I've seen my baseball team go to 3 World Series, win 2 of them back to back. The Dolphins and the Penguins are my pride and joy when it comes to sports teams. I watch my hockey team. In my lifetime, I watched my hockey team go to 5 Stanley Cups and win 4 of them. Sorry, I apologize. What am I on right now? 6 Stanley Cups and win 5 of them. 2 of those were back-to-back. And actually, all 3 of them were back-to-back appearances. 91, 92, 08, 09, 16, 17. They've only lost 1. 5. Crosby 3, Lemieux 2. Lemieux 5 in total because he's an owner. I've seen success. This is the franchise where, listen, we all ain't getting any younger here. There's a reality here. We ain't getting any younger here. How many of us from the Marino era are closing in on being on God's green earth for half a century? And what have we seen? Even if you're 50 years old on the dot, today you turn 50 and you're a Dolphins fan. What have you seen since 76? You know? I mean, let's be real here. My God, we deserve better than this. Crazy. For a franchise that can sit here and say, in the last 40 years, we've had a top 5 quarterback ever and arguably the greatest head coach ever. People want to argue that, can argue that. I believe Shula was, right? He didn't have to do what Belichick did. We got all this. And what do we have to show for it? Think about that for a sec. Think of every sport you watch, every favorite team of yours, or every team that's been successful that you hate, whether it's the Lakers or whatever. I mean, Heat fans. Y'all had Pat Riley. Look what Pat Riley did with the Lakers. Look what Pat Riley's done for you guys. You know, he's like a Shula of basketball to an extent. You know, I think Phil Jackson's up there too, right? How did we not have more success? This is like Phil Jackson finding his Kobe and not winning anything. This is like Riley finding his Dwayne Wade and not winning anything. That's what happened with Shula and Marino. That's crazy. Think about that for a second. I'll put it in just Miami perspective for you. That's nuts. You want recent perspective for you? I mean, it's crazy. It's like, I don't know. And if you want recent perspective, it's like Paul Maurice having his Barkov or Kachuk and not winning a Stanley Cup. Think about that for a sec. It's crazy. Man, enough down that path. All right, let's get into the thickest stuff because we got a lot to go over here. So let's start off with this. There's a little bit of a change this year in terms of how the cut downs are working, how the roster cut downs are going to work. So the NFL informed teams recently that this year's cut down deadline to 53 players, it's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, August 30th, not the following Tuesday as it has been in recent years, sources say. So waiver claims will be due at 1 p.m. Eastern on Monday, August 31st. The season then kicks off on September 9th. So what does that mean in further context? So especially to the Dolphins. So again, because of them moving the cut down to 53 players from 4 p.m. on a Tuesday, which is 12 days before most NFL teams open the season, to 6 p.m. on a Sunday, and now waiver claims being due at 1 p.m. on Monday, August 31st, that kind of gives the Dolphins and basically 28 teams who open the season the Sunday or Monday after Labor Day, that gives you a full 2 weeks for new players to practice. So the Patriots and the Seahawks, they play the season opener on the September 9th. The Rams and the 49ers play in Australia on September 10th. And then every other team opens on September 13th or the 14th, right? So the Dolphins are at Las Vegas on September 13th, right? So that's just going to give more practice time for any players that get waiver claim, new players. So there you go. And hey, it's here we go. It's just think about this. In like 60 days, it'll be training camp. And we got mandatory minicamp starting next week. So here we go. It's coming, and it's coming fast, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Barry Jackson, he had a couple things he dropped a 6-pack of Dolphins notes and nuggets today. And this is what he said in it. He said there's no risk in taking a bottom of the roster waiver claim and experimenting with him at a new position. So the Dolphins' recent decision to claim former Packers defensive lineman James Esther and move him to guard comes with no downside. Either he becomes a splendid summer surprise or absolutely nothing is lost. Per a source, the Dolphins made the move because several former Packers coaches saw him practice some at guard on the Packers practice squad and believed his power, movement skills, strength, and athleticism could give him a chance to succeed at guard. John Eric Sullivan naturally was on board as well. I mean, this guy's got to put on some weight. What are we talking about? The Packers liked Esther enough to keep him on their practice squad as a defensive lineman for 2 years, but not quite enough to put him on the 53-man roster. He hasn't appeared in a regular season game yet, but he's 6'3", 289 pounds. Brother, you got to put on like another at least 20. You got to put on like 20 to 30 pounds here. I mean, now Aaron Brewer is 295 pounds. Yes, but he's a center, right? I mean, are we going to have all of our guards under 300 pounds? Is that what the idea is? And he goes on here to say several players in recent years have made successful move from defensive line to offensive line, including J.R. Sweezy with Seattle. He was 310 pounds. And former Bears starting guard Rashad Coward, who was 319 pounds. Are we seeing a trend here? Lorenzo Alexander moved from defensive line to guard to linebacker. So there you go. And then he goes into the Tanner Connor experiment. Let's not even go there. Now, and he's right here. He says many of the outside the box moves ultimately don't work out, but some do. And when you're talking about players who are roster long shots to begin with, it's absolutely nothing to lose worth trying. I agree with that 110%. I just have no expectations. It is now he gets into the offensive line here. Now the theme here, we're getting into some nuggets on the offensive line. So he says it has become clear that Jonas Savai and I will have every chance to earn the starting right guard job. But if he flops, the Dolphins have two realistic options: Jamari Sailor and 7th-round pick DJ Campbell. Unfortunately, Sailor's one full season at right guard for the Chargers didn't go very well. He allowed 8 sacks that season. He allowed 4 sacks while playing right guard and limited snaps during the past 2 seasons for Los Angeles. Campbell permitted a combined 4 sacks while playing right guard the past 2 seasons at Texas. Yeah, so their backup plan as it sits up right now is, this is why. Listen, I know the young guys but I would, if Kevin Zeitler is willing to come here and just battle in camp, I wouldn't be afraid of guys in their 30s. You know, I mean, DJ Campbell went where he went. He's not going to start in year 1. That guy needs some time, I believe. He needs some time for sure. You know, Sailor, do they have right tackle or right guard aspirations for him? We got to see that play out at camp and through mandatory minicamp. We'll be learning things there. So now, big talk here about Jordan Phillips. He's definitely a player that you're going to have to watch this year, I think. So Dolphins defensive lineman Jordan Phillips graded out better against the run than Kenneth Grant last year per PFF. And he turned heads so far in the offseason program. He's worked his tail off, Sealer said this week. To see his growth from last year to this year has been incredible. Another reporter mentioned to Phillips that he's often the first defensive player to rush onto the field during games and asked the thinking about that. And he said, okay, I have a question. So say, for example, your pet gets loose and just runs out there in the road. Are you just going to get up and slowly go about, or are you going to go and run? Like, you have to have urgency about everything you do. This is a fast and physical game, so you can't walk in the field. You can't just slow jog. Now you got to take the field, because at the end of the day, there's a guy that's lined up in front of you who's going to try to kill you. So you got to take the field the right way. It's just a mindset. It's a mentality. I love that. Coach Jeff Hafley does a great job of setting the standard about how you do one thing is how you do everything, Phillips said. You don't want to be lackadaisical in no aspect of your life. You know, you want to do everything the right way. So that's what it's about. Now, if Malik Washington is needed to play the most snaps at receiver, would he remain Miami's primary punt and kick returner? That would be a heavy workload, but the Dolphins also would be diminishing the return game by lessening the load on Washington, who ranked 6th in kickoff return average last season and 4th in punt return average. Asked if Washington will remain the team's primary returner, new special teams coordinator Chris Tabor said, I'd say everything's always open. That's why we want it. The one thing I'll say about Malik is that he's a dangerous player, a really good player. Rookie receiver Kevin Coleman would be the other top return option. He averaged a very good 12.6 yards, including a touchdown, on 15 punt returns from Missouri last season, and has ranked 7th, 6th, and 5th in the SEC in punt return yards the past 3 seasons. He has 4 kickoff return yards for 88 yards. I think that's definitely going to be the battle. The thing, too, we've seen that's been clear is they're trying out their options. Tutu Atwell, I mean, he's muffing punts. You know, he's muffing returns. That's never a good thing to see by any stretch of the imagination. So, you know, do I think, I don't know. Do I think Malik should get his workload reared back? I don't really think so. Just at this stage, trial by fire, we need to see what we have with everyone. You got to give him the workload that he earns. And if he earns the special teams and a heavy receiver workload, so be it. Now, Jordan Phillips, he's going to have a big year, I think, too. I think guys like, you know, he has been one to watch. I'm told Greg Dulcich has been really, really good, too. So he's been another one to watch as well. But listen, the Dolphins are going to be relying on a lot of young players who need to take the next step this season, and their success this season could really hinge on these young players taking that next step. So I've got 7 players that I identified that I think really need to take the next step for the Miami Dolphins to have some success. Now, we talk about them being a 2-3-4 win team. I get that. But for them to, if Halfley and Sullivan see this as a 5 to 7 to 8 win team, or a team that could knock on the playoff door, I think these 7 players here are going to be very key to that happening if it can happen. And the players I'm talking about are these 7 players. So Malik Willis, let's start with him. He needs to prove that he can not only be a number 1, but also a franchise option on a team that, next to Achane, is thin and unproven weapon-wise with mid-tier talent and rookies. You know, if Miami ends up with a top 3 pick, his stint as a starter may be very short-lived. That's a reality of where we are. Like, he needs to be as good as he was, last year against Baltimore and Chicago, for basically a full season. And there needs to be no doubt about it, because he's also got age working against him too. Now, the next 6 I want to go into here, they have one thing in common. And the next 6 players we're going to talk about, none of these guys are Halfley or John Eric Sullivan guys. So there is no professional, emotional, or favoring ties to these players if they don't perform. So, and it starts off with Jonah Savaianaya. Saylor and Campbell, we just talked about it. They may be breathing down his neck at camp. Who knows who they could add with some post-June 1st money as well. I mean, he has got to take the next step. Especially if we want this right line, this right side of this offensive line to keep up with how the offensive line is looking from the left side. That left side with Proctor and Patrick Paul has a sense that it could be special. Aaron Brewer in the middle of this whole offensive line. So Jonah really needs to take that big next step. 110%. Number 3, we were just talking about him, Malik Washington. In a weak wide receiver room where there may be plenty of opportunity to go around, Washington needs to flash some chops beyond the slot and as a returner, where I think he'll battle Kevin Coleman Jr. Listen, if he can fill the Z role and a bit more, he has a chance to be a significant contributor this year. He needs to build that chemistry out with Malik Willis. But, his best season so far was last year. 65 targets, 46 receptions, 317 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think he can build on that. There's a chance for a 500-plus yard season and 5+ touchdowns. So, and, he was really good as a returner last year, right? He had 20 punt returns for 260 yards and a touchdown. He had 36 kickoff returns for 965 yards. So, Malik, he has a chance to be a significant contributor this year. He's got to take that next step, though, and get into that Z role so we can see some more boundary looks for him, though. Number 4, Chop Robinson. A couple things here. More wide 9 and interior usage probably this year. Not much competition. Uche and what else there off the edge? Mason Rieger and Trey Moore, youth competition, So the reps will be there. But he needs to become better at setting the edge to be a 3-down player. But there's also pressure. The pressure is Halfley has kind of pointed to him as someone that was misused by Weaver that he's going to get correct and get the most out of. So now there's pressure on Chop to live up to the hype that Halfley's starting to put behind him. Right? you got to ask yourself, can Chop Robinson have a better year than what he had as a rookie in terms of sacks where he had only 6? Can he become an 8 to 10 sack guy? Can the pressures become, well, we know he can stack up the pressures, but can he finish those off a little bit more? And can he set the edge? Setting the edge is going to be key to him being out there a lot more and being a true 3-down player is what we need him to start to become. Number 6 for me is Kenneth Grant. And listen, a leap by him could make a guy like Zach Sealer expendable at the trade deadline if things aren't going well. But beyond that, we need to see him. He kind of went the same way as Chop did as a rookie, right? Where Kenneth Grant in the second half of the season, you saw the growth, you saw the steps, you saw him starting to become a real problem. And that was how Chop was in his rookie season. We wanted Chop to build off that and be consistent with that as a sophomore. He didn't the way we wanted him to. Can Kenneth Grant become consistent with what we saw in the second half of his rookie season as a sophomore? You know, I think there's I think this kid is going to be really good. You know, I think anyone who's writing him off, you're crazy. I think he is going to be really, really good. And I mean, you look at what he was doing last year. He had more sacks. Kenneth Grant had more sacks than Mason Graham, who was drafted higher by the Cleveland Browns. And he had more run stops, per snap. He had a higher run stop per snap ratio than Mason Graham as well. Mason Graham just had more reps in him. So let's keep it going. Number 6 here is Jason Marshall. I think next to Chris Johnson, he's expected to be a top option in the corner room. I've talked about it. I think Jason Marshall and Chris Johnson in non 5+ DB, 5 or more DB packages, in 4 DB or less packages, Jason Marshall and Chris Johnson are going to be handling that workload, I think. And then when it's 5 or more DB packages, I think that's when you see now Chris Johnson can kick into the slot. And then I think you could see Juju, Marco Wilson, or, names like that start to be used to see what they have there. So I think there's going to be a lot of expectations from the staff with Jason Marshall Jr. in year 1 under them. I really do. And then number 7 for me, that's Dante Trader. And, this isn't really in order. These are just the 7 names. And listen, the safety room is depending on him. The secondary is depending on them. The staff is depending on him. That safety room is arguably the weakest in the NFL. And he's being expected to step up and be a leader and also produce. Not just be a leader, but also produce. So, listen, Dante Trader, he might have the most pressure on his plate of anyone not named Malik Willis on this list. And we're hearing he's responding to that pressure very well, at least in the sessions open to the media. And how is he going to respond to it come mandatory minicamp? We're gonna find out. It's gonna be something to watch for sure. For sure. Remember, mandatory minicamp is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. I'll be live all through it. We'll have Marcel Louis Jacques coming through, me and Neil. We'll have you locked in and fully informed when it comes to mandatory minicamp next week. Don't you worry, I got y'all. So keep it locked in here. All right. Smash that like button. Go ahead and subscribe if you are new. Listen, The Athletic they wrote an article on every team's best move of the offseason so far. And do you know what they said Miami Dolphins' best move of the offseason was? This is what they said. Moving on from Tua Tagovailoa as part of a reset, giving the Dolphins credit for escaping a catastrophe of their own making shows how low the expectations bar can fall when a team misevaluates the most important position. The reckoning was coming after the Dolphins, like the Cardinals and Jaguars, invested top-tier money in a Tier 3 quarterback. Miami finally decided to escape Tagovailoa's contract. The Cardinals did the same with Murray. Jacksonville might survive its contract with Trevor Lawrence. Miami is no longer pretending it is contending. The reset is underway. Appropriate. How bad is the state of your team when the Athletic, highlights you releasing Tua Tagovailoa as the best move of the offseason? Got to be pretty bad, pretty weak, huh? And I'm glad people are waking up on Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I don't know what anyone ever saw in him. At least Tua coming out was setting accuracy records and doing stuff we had never seen from an accuracy and touch and placement standpoint. Trevor Lawrence came in up here and just declined year by year. And I never understood it. I never understood it. And they play in a weak division. Let's be real. That's a division we should be in. We should be in that division instead of the Colts. The Colts should be in the AFC East, and we should be in the AFC South. And I say that to say this. At the beginning of the show, we talked about how long it's been since we won a playoff game. I think that would have been changed. If we would have been in the AFC South, we would have won a playoff game a long time ago. 110%. Like 110%. Man, Blake Bortles was out here winning playoff games in the AFC South. What do you think we would have been able to do? Let's be real on that one. And then, man, the shots just keep coming. I know we talked a couple weeks ago about how Fox just said, like, in terms of weapons, and they just disrespected us. They just said we were really, really bad. Look at this. SB Nation, they did a post, and they were trying to build the worst NFL team for the 2026 season. And the Dolphins made it not once, not twice, but thrice. Oh, boy. So building the worst NFL team possible for the 2026 season. At wide receiver, they got the Dolphins, which, I mean, it's rookies and mid-tier talent. I literally said this, so I don't disagree. Tight end, because, again, Dulcich is your number one. And then on top of that, I mean, you've got Kasmeric, who hasn't proven anything yet. And then you've got Ben Sims, who's an inline guy. And then corner and safety. Corner and safety. Because really, other than Chris Johnson and the hope we have that Dante Trader is going to be good this year, what do we have in that secondary room? I mean, I love Juju Bretz was a man crush of mine coming up, but the guys have been able to stay healthy. And honestly, I think if Cleveland Brown is I think you could make a case for Cleveland Browns and Arizona Cardinals. Crazy that the Cardinals didn't make this list at all, but yeah, the Dolphins, 3 positions. Literally a third of this list is occupied by the Miami Dolphins. Think about that one for a second. And going back to the whole, AFC South, AFC East thing, because I see DC Monroe made a comment, and he's right. The Jags would probably be our main rivals, but that'd be great. Listen, I know it'd be over right now because, well, it might not have been over. What do you mean? Imagine if we're in the AFC South in 2023. Think about this. Just take yourself back. Put that 2023 and even that 2022 team in the AFC South. Yeah, the playoff monkey's off our back. Not only that, we're watching Tua and the Dolphins probably run through Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. We're seeing the Clemson-Alabama rivalry now, in the Sunshine State, baby. Man, you put those 2022 and 2023 Dolphins teams in the AFC South those years like they should have been, we would have won the divisions easily. We would have swept the divisions easily. Just saying. Ladies and gentlemen, do me the favor, smash that like button. We are only 11 subscribers away from hitting 20K. So make sure if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. It only takes a second to smash that like button. Hit that like button. Let's get to 400 likes on this video. Appreciate each and every one of you coming through. Don't forget this Sunday, all right, 10:30, we'll be dropping the Kyle Lewis film study for each and every one of you. So make sure you check it out. We'll catch each and every one of you on the next one. Until then, you're in a time. It is Fins up all day, every day. And we'll see you on the next one.